whole process of this, right, is you want to increase the lead quality that you're going to get, and you want to set the impression that we're on it and that we're focused on punctuality. The best time to get a hold of people is while they're closest to that moment of showing interest. So for example, they go to the open house on Sunday or Saturday, and the further they get away from that, the further they get away from the time where they're spending energy on it, and the less they remember you. Now, in the campaign, built inside the campaign is a bunch of different trigger points where you've got your 2-to-1 buy down video, you've got your open house email for the 2-to-1 buy down. That all that information is extremely relevant right now, especially as agents are. I got a number from Eric, 40+% are with the 2-to-1 buy down right now. So what that means is that despite the rates being, hovering around 6, a lot of people are still getting 4% interest rates right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a conversation in the vision meeting today with some of the franchise owners, and it talked about the objections and talked about buyers. What kind of objections are you guys getting with buyers right now?
I think a lot of them are waiting. Like, I have a lot of people, I feel like my March, like the spring months are going to be really busy, but like, I just have a lot of people on the fence and, can't bring that to the bank.
Yep. So when how does that show up in your conversations?
So it's like, I'm trying to think, like people, hey, check out this property. Oh, great. Saw, something similar, not exactly what we want. And, we expect to see more inventory in the summer. I had that conversation the other day, or like sent them a property and then they're like, yeah, kind of similar thing. Yeah, great. We'll talk about it. But they're like, not really moving forward.
Yep. And so in that conversation, what are some questions that you can ask that will open up that conversation? Because the goal is to, really, if you think about it, the goal is to help them buy or sell real estate and build your database with clients that respect you and trust you and want to work with you. When they're holding off, you don't care. Realistically, if you meet 10 people and all 10 people want to work with you, but all 10 of them aren't actually going to buy in the next
6 months to a year, 2 years, whatever.
Yeah. So this isn't real quick, Kendra. This is not a meeting about Rise. This is a meeting about this is a San Diego real estate meeting that we do for sales and lead gen that I opened up to everybody. So I just sent over.
Sure, it's very helpful. No, I just texted Hannah and she said she was trying to get on a different meeting called Rise.
Yeah, that's not us. I just sent over the meeting if she's been trying to get into this one, the ID and the password. So like when we're talking to those people, right, we want to get into a conversation. We want to set an appointment with them because we want to be able to consult them. You can't influence people all the time. I'm assuming this was at an open house.
This has been, I'm talking about maybe post open house follow-up.
Okay. And so what are the questions? What are some of the questions that you can ask them that will lead to more opportunity to influence them to work with them?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you looking for in the next agent that you work with?
And then they say,
we're looking for someone that, I think reliable, looking for someone that knows the market, looking for someone that, able to bring and show us inventory and, jack of many trades.
What about Jill? So question that really is a great, powerful question is, all right, hey, so it sounds like you guys are waiting for the right home to come out, and you haven't been able to see a lot of inventory. Is that right?
Yes.
So let me ask you this, because this is how it typically goes. You guys are obviously here, you went to the open house, you guys are out taking a look at homes. If the perfect home at the perfect price popped up tomorrow, what would be your next step?
Okay. And my next step would be, I guess, getting in touch with the real estate agent.
Great. And would you so you'd want to go see it is what you're saying, right? Like if the perfect property popped up and you'd want to go see it. So how would you go see it? Would you call some random agent or would you just wait for the open house?
Yeah, we maybe wait for the open house, or if if it was an urgent thing, we'd probably call you, or
Okay. And if you well, if they say you probably call me, right?
yeah,
That's say, hey, well, I would definitely appreciate that, and I'll always be reliable and go to help you. Since they just said they wanted somebody reliable, I'll use that word, right?
yeah.
Well, hey, I'm always reliable for a phone call to help a buyer. Question for you though, if you went to the open house and you wanted to make the offer, what would you do next?
Went to the open house, want to make the offer. I would, yeah, no, like I said, I'd probably get in touch with you, or get in touch with the listing agent, or get in touch with somebody to trying to talk about our options with that.
Okay. What if there was competition? What was it? What if there was competition on the property?
Like we said, we'd probably just try to figure it out with whoever can get us the home for the best price and best terms. But I hear what you're saying. We don't really have too much of a plan in place.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to pick you apart because by the way, most of my best clients were in the same exact position. What I would tell you is that the buyers that have the best plan in place prior to going out and tour homes are typically the ones that get the best value. So
Yeah.
when you say you want a reliable agent, is it just somebody that's going to pick up the phone and go show your property when you're available, or is it somebody that you can rely on to help you get into position to not make a mistake that could potentially cost you thousands and thousands of dollars?
Yeah, I guess it would be the latter.
Gotcha. Have you been speaking to any other agents that have been talking to you about putting plans in place, or am I the first agent you've ever met?
We had an agent that we used to buy the house, but we're not really in touch with them too much anymore. So we met you at an open house, and we met a couple other agents, but nothing really set in plan. Nothing set in place yet.
Gotcha. Did any of them offer to go show you other homes or help you buy a home?
Yeah, people have been offering to show us homes, and I think we want, like you said, more somebody that's going to make a plan for us and be able to, kind of help us navigate everything at a higher level.
Gotcha. And did any of these people offer to give you a free consultation to show you exactly what's going on in the market, when the interest rates are supposed to drop, how to find the most inventory that other buyers don't know about, and at the same time put a plan in place so that if lightning struck and the exact property came up in an inconvenient time, you'd know exactly what to do without making any mistakes?
Not in that way, no.
Do you think that would be of value to you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do this. I do a buyer consultation where I will literally slow down before we even go show homes, before we put the cart before the horse. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through exactly what's going on in the market. You mentioned finding the right time. Well, time typically, being able to have the right time typically comes from having the most amount of information. Because if you know exactly what the market's doing, when it's happening, you can get ahead of other people and get the best deal, which is obviously something that's important to every single buyer. They want to get the best house at the best price, with the most convenience and the least amount of stress. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Great. That's exactly why we should meet. When are you available, you and your significant other, to sit down for a cup of coffee? We can go have a beer. I can buy you a cocktail. I mean, we can do it however you want. It'll be a casual setting. We'll be able to sit down and make sure that you get all the information you need. And then we can go back to waiting for the right property while I hunt for the off-market properties you really desire. Does that sound like something that you would do?
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
Right. So when you get wishy-washy,
pull it forward, yeah.
Yeah, when you get wishy-washy buyers where they're just like, oh, well, we got our hands up in the air, paint the picture. I mean, think of it this way. Have you ever had a buyer that, I mean, at least I've experienced this where, you call, like I've experienced this on both the flip side where property comes to the market, buyer says they want to buy it, I'm in the right position and I capitalize it. And the same time, I've been on the flip side where I call somebody up that's like, oh, we're just waiting for the market, we're waiting for timing, we're waiting for inventory, we're waiting for this. And you call them up to follow up with them and they're like, oh, we ended up finding a home.
Yeah.
Sorry, we didn't think about you in that time, and we just ended up finding the home. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, that's how it typically happens for people, where they're looking, and then boom, all of a sudden something pops up and it inspires them to move forward. And all of a sudden their objections, we're waiting for interest rates, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for that, we're waiting for this and that. Well, for the right house, people will move.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
What other objection, and feel free to throw in Kendra, Darlene, if you have stuff. I mean, what other objections, Austin, are we facing when it comes to buyers or sellers in the marketplace right now?
Personally, it seems like the inventory is tight. Not a lot of properties out there. Obviously, with buyers, sometimes it's like a shiny object thing, So if you have a handful of properties that you can send them on a weekly basis, I feel like that a lot of the times gets them motivated, as opposed to just trying to find something that works for them. Obviously, off-market properties, but that's also a little bit tougher to find and make happen. So.
Yeah, the challenge for real estate agents is like, and this is actually a benefit. I don't know about you. Have you guys ever heard, like, if you ever go to ask for a buyer, like, hey, what do you really want from an agent? Well, I want an agent that brings me properties, right? And when you have, oh, are you speaking to, have you decided to work with an agent exclusively? No, I'm going to work with a lot of agents, and whoever brings me the property is the one who's going to win. Have you ever encountered that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And so that one is a challenging situation for most, but then it goes right back to breaking it down. Okay, great. So let me ask you this. How many different listing alerts do you receive? What do you mean? Well, the way the technology works, sir, is that, you can go on Zillow and you can fill out your search criteria and hit save, and then it'll email you properties every single day. Right. And then there's agents where we can put you on the MLS. But if I'm an agent in the San Diego MLS and you talk to another agent in the San Diego MLS and you give us both the same criteria, because I doubt you would tell me you want, a blue house and tell them that you hate blue and you really want a red house. Right. So you're giving away the same criteria. And then we all go and put it into our systems, which is all coming from the same root source. So question for you. What happens if you find the home on Zillow? Who are you going to use then?
Probably contact the agent that I've been working with or had met already.
Gotcha. So when you say to me, you want multiple agents to bring you multiple opportunities, because that's your solution to finding more inventory, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, I don't want all my eggs in one basket. It'd be nice to have a couple agents out there working for me.
Yeah. And at the same time, it also gives you the flexibility that if you find the property, you can go directly to the listing agent. Is that how you would prefer to buy the home, is if you went directly to the listing agent without any buyer's agent at all?
I mean, I've heard in the past that sometimes if you can work directly with the listing agent, they might be able to kind of, get you either a better deal on the home or maybe get your offer accepted, as opposed to working with the buyer's agent. So.
Yeah, I know. I can appreciate where you're coming from. A lot of my clients felt that way before working with me as well. Out of curiosity, how much research and due diligence have you done into that matter?
Not a lot. We're still in the searching process. Haven't really had the chance to contact a listing agent directly to set something up. So.
All right. Well, hypothetically, like, because it sounds like it's really important to you to get the best deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So in regards to getting the best deal, it's always interesting to me because people go to the listing agent who is contractually and legally obligated to get the most amount of money for the sales, for the seller. And oftentimes when I've worked with people like you in the past, they say, well, they can eliminate the commission, which then can get me a better deal. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
And so if you go directly to him, he can do the due diligence and get rid of that money. So do you know what the average agent makes with commission?
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up on me there. What was that?
Do you know what the average agent is making for commission in this marketplace?
I don't know. I think what is it, like 5 or 6%?
So the average agent on the buyer side, right? Because a listing agent is not going to reduce his commission. He's not going to throw away half of the commission and then give you a discount on his. Why would he? He's got the listing and he still now has to do 2 transactions. So there's actually twice the amount of work. And the other thing to understand is that we're working with dual representing 2 clients is actually kind of a pain in the ass. Not because the transaction is more complicated from a contractual obligation or whatnot. But one, it opens up to us to a massive amount of liability because we're now representing two parties where it's technically impossible to do so. How can I help you get the best price legally and from a fiduciary duty? How can I help you get the best price at the same time get the other person the highest price? It would be like getting sued and hiring the attorney that's representing the people suing you to defend you. Now, with that being said, though, that doesn't mean there isn't value for you. And I'm saying that doesn't mean that all agents are going to be less than forthcoming, because what I've found in experience, most agents do their best, to be honest. But what that means is they're not going to do twice the work for less than half the money. So the most that you're ever really going to get is half of the commission. Now, sometimes the listings, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes the listings are only at 3.5% or 4%, especially in a high price market like San Diego. So if you're talking to a listing agent that has a 1% commission on the sales side and a 2% commission on the buy side, then that means at most you could only get 2% of the purchase price. So that 2% of the purchase price, how do you think that comes to you in the form of value? Meaning, are you getting that in cash back? Are you getting that off the purchase price? How do you want that structured?
I haven't really thought about that yet. But I just, at the end of the day, I guess maybe just like cash back would be nice. Yeah.
Hey, well, listen, I'm not trying to convince you, whether you work with me or not. My job is just to educate people, right? I spend a lot of time educating people about the process, helping them build a plan, even when they don't use me. I'm an educator at heart. So don't feel embarrassed that you don't understand this information. Most people that try to buy properties from a seller directly walk up to the seller and think because they're successful in business or they've done other negotiations that they don't need to know the nuances of our business. By knowing the nuances of our business, it's going to help you understand where to get the best deal. Because if you're getting a full 2% discount or a full 2.5% discount, and there's another agent that has another buyer that's doing the same amount of that's bringing that buyer to the table, what incentive does the agent have to do to let you get the home if he's not making any more money? So when you go up to these people, you need a plan in place. Now, let me ask you this. What if by going directly to the listing agent, you were actually losing the opportunity to get a bigger discount or a better deal?
How so?
Great question. I'm really glad you asked. When you go to the listing agent, his job is to get full price. We've already identified that he's probably, or she is probably only willing to discount 1/2 of it. And so you've got a finite amount of discount. And she also has to legally protect themselves because they don't know who you are. You're a stranger to them. You're just somebody who randomly called them off of their listing. And so there's no built-in layer of trust, and vice versa. You don't trust them because deep down in your heart, they're supposed to get the most amount of money for their seller. So when they tell you a property is worth this, or they can only negotiate X, Y, and Z, you don't really believe them, do you?
Yeah, not after what you just told me, no.
Well, so now you've got a situation where you're using somebody that's ethically bound to negotiate against you. You're using somebody to give you financial advice, and you also know you have a finite discount. And they're going to legally protect themselves, because if they get you too big of a discount, then the seller could come back and sue them, and they lose all their commission, because in the great litigious state of California, people sue for a lot. Let me ask you this. Okay, I hear you. Can I set you up with new listing alerts? Sure. Do I have a database of off-market properties of over 3,000 properties of sellers that don't want to sell but would love for me to bring them a buyer? Sure. That's all great. But what if I could show you a strategy that would do two things for you? Option A would give you a perfect plan so that when you approach these people, you have the absolute best plan of how to get that finite discount removed and protect yourself from a legal perspective. Or option B, give you an additional strategy that by using an agent like myself, not only will you have the ability to not pay anything for my representation, but also get the best deal on the home, and I can bring you the most amount of inventory. Would you take 15 minutes to just run through that with me, or would that be a complete waste of your time?
No, I think it's worth the time.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it all goes back to not trying to overcome the objection, but just highlight the problem.
Yeah. And
Right.
be-
Well, that, you know, and so many times we skip all those extra steps where it's like, well, you wouldn't hire, you know, the industry normal objection handlers. Well, would you ever hire a defense attorney to sue you, that's suing you to defend you? Well, no. So why would you do that with any other agent? Let's go ahead and meet. You have to, if you really want to influence them and change their course of action, you have to highlight the flaws in their current way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that by asking questions and highlighting the benefit. And notice that none of that was really selling them anything. I was just breaking down the process. So the whole time while they're going through it, and you notice with somebody like that, they typically don't want to be sold. And they typically have a distrust for agents, which is why why else would you, they think they're going to get the best deal, that agents are worthless. They can't do what they want to do. Not that they're worthless, just that they can do their job better than them. So that's why I use things like, or is that a complete waste of your time? Tell me if you think I'm worthless, tell me now so I can just move on. I don't care. You're the one without a plan, right? There's that element of not being arrogant. And I do it from a humility standpoint. Listen, I know that you can make this work, by the way. There's a lot of agents that are going to tell you that, you know, you're going about it all the wrong way. I know a lot of people, I have friends that even though they know I'm a phenomenal agent, they still go directly to listing agent, but they use the strategies that I talk to them about. And when they get in trouble, they still call me.
Could you clip that? Like,
I'll just upload the recording.
yeah, I need to like rehear that.
There was this quote that said, it was from Alex Hormozy. Do you know what Alex Hormozy is?
No.
Alex Hormozy is a guy he's a ClickFunnels guy that is in the gym industry. And it was talking about stuff like this, where, you know, we make these goals and we make these things that we want to double, triple, quadruple our sales volume, and people get frustrated and then they blame stuff, right? And it's like, you need to focus on the skill sets, right? So I can upload this video and I can tell you this, that I never get fearful of the guy that finds no value in agents and wants to go directly to the salesperson. Now, that doesn't mean that I've never had that conversation with that person where he goes, you know, hey, Josh, I've done this 2 or 3 times. And I go down there. He goes, well, I reach out to the salesperson. And first thing I do is I forward over my pre-approval, my proof of funds, to let them know I'm serious. Second, I tell them I'd like to see the home. I don't even bring up the fact that I'm thinking about buying it and I don't have an agent. Third, I go and see the home. I then decide that I want the home. 4, I reach out to the listing agent and I ask him to write up the offer for me. And I want him to give me a $15,000 rebate in the form of closing costs. And he can keep all of his other commission, and he can even make a little money for writing up the paperwork for me. 4, I ask him to send me all the comparables, and I don't ask for his opinion on value to ensure that it's at the right price. 5, I don't let him advise me on what my offer is. I do it based off my data. And I also ask him to send me the MLS statistics for the last 30 days as a whole to see which way the market's going. Right? Like when people say stuff like that, I go, great. Let me ask you a question. How much is your time worth?
Mm-hmm.
Even though you've got a good grip on it, you still got to go look for the properties. You got to do all that research. Would you feel like there's value? Because what if knowing that you're going to do all the work, Austin, that buyer we had, Jimmy had his plan. He refused to change his plan. And I said, Jimmy, let me ask you this. Since you're doing all the work, since you already know everything and you just need to bounce a couple ideas, what if instead of having the listing agent, AKA the other attorney, what instead of him benefiting, we gave you the commission? So, you know, you're looking at $1 million home. It's $25,000 in commission. How about we give you a $15,000 credit? You do all the work. We ask as consultants. We write up the offers. We are there for you you can tap into our resources, and you get the best of both worlds. You get to do it exactly the way you want. You get your discount on the home, and you've got awesome agents in your corner that are looking out for you that you know you can trust. And what did he say? Yeah, that sounds good. right? But by understanding what was important to him and where he wanted to go, we were able to provide him with a solution that you, and if you remember him, I've got friends in real estate. I called my realtor. I've got friends in lending. I called my lender, but we were still able to provide him a pain point and a solution that nobody else was. And then he became loyal to us. People say that they're loyal to their other agent because we haven't shown that we have more value. Nobody's loyal to their doctor.
Real quick question on the Jimmy thing. So for that to work, you're basically stating that the listing agent, because he was going to double in, he'll cut the commission, but he's still like the listing agent was not really going to give the buying agent a credit, right? Like that usually doesn't happen, or the buyer a credit. Like,
well, yeah, they can say,
direct.
hey, I'll do, let's say it's a 5% listing, and 2.5 to the buy, 2.5 to sell. And it's, $700,000 property. So that's what, 17.5? No, 25, 700,000.
2.5%. Yeah. It's like
17,500. So if he says, hey, I'll give you an $8,000 credit, then he would just do a credit in the form of recurring and non-recurring closing costs at the close of escrow.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the reason why I was asking is just, but that's typically like, does that really, like, I guess it could happen, but the seller would be like, why am I paying full? Like they would still be paying full price. Usually they would do a reduced commission if you're double ending.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on the structure. It depends on the structure, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I asked that question. Because if they're like, oh, I'm going to get a reduced cost in price. Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you know, so you're going to get $8,000 to $10,000 in a credit. Do you know how much per month that is you're going to save on your house?
Yeah, it's true. And then you look into it and it's like,
yeah, because if I show you, you can still see my screen. If I say, okay, cool, sir. Well, listen, you're going to get $8,000, right? And you're going to multiply that. You're going to divide that by 1,000, because for every $1,000, you save about $50. You multiply that by 50. So you're going to save, for every $10,000, it's 50, right? So if you multiply that, you're talking about $40 a month you're going to save. So you're going to go use somebody that, you're only going to be saving $40 a month. What if you could save that $40? What if I could teach you how to save a few $100s a month with the same amount of credit and still get a better deal on the house? Well, how would you do that, Josh? Well, that's exactly why we meet. Now, if an agent's asking, how would we do that? 2-to-1 buy down and negotiate harder on the behalf of the buyer.
Yeah. It could work.
It does work, but it goes back to that whole scenario of, I was talking to Surreal about this today. And, this is something that I'm constantly focusing on, right? Because he was saying, I've realized that the key to me making more money is really mastering meanness, and the way to master it is to practice it. And you can practice it in a couple different ways. You can practice it by role playing, you can practice it by script studying, or listening to recorded webinars like I'll put this and upload this, and you can practice it on the phone with clients. The challenge with practicing on the phone with the clients is, one, they're in shorter demand. What I mean by that is, you could make 100 phone calls today, you might have 5 or 10 real estate conversations, right? But the skill set of developing an ear that hears these trigger points, that starts to question things in a curiosity mindset, never ever when, let me rephrase that. In the beginning, I had a little bit of an arrogant undertone about it because I was like working to prove that they were wrong. Now I'm truly coming at it like, well, let's talk about this. Help me understand why you're so confident about doing this, because I know the fallacies of this, and I also know the challenges of this. What do you have in response to this answer? Oh, well, hey, no worries. Most people don't. That doesn't mean anything about you. What about this answer? What about this answer? What I told Surreal, and I can tell what I did to get better at this is I smash the relativity out of my life. What I mean by that is if I say I want the best deal on the house, that's a relative statement. It's a generalized relative. What does that mean to you, right? I love Italian food. In comparison to what?
Yeah.
Is it your favorite food? What do you love about Italian food? Do you have certain Italian food you don't like? What's Italian food you don't eat, right? Like there's these things that we say all the time that are relative, and we take them at such a surface level. So, I'll give you an example. I had a friend one time, and this is what I told Surreal, is if you want to practice this and get better, first you have to adjust the way you're hearing things. Most agents think they have a lead problem when really they have a lead conversion problem. But it really goes back to not converting with the mouthpiece, but converting with the earpiece, of hearing things differently. So when you think about how you're going to listen differently, it starts by changing the habits and the way we operate now. If my wife says, I'm not really hungry, whatever you guys choose is good for me, I don't take that at face value. I might ask layering question. I might say, interesting, how come you're not hungry today? Well, I had a big lunch. Well, that's awesome. How big was your lunch, right? Like you can practice. I was at a 4th of July party one time, and my friend mocked me for the length of my fingernails. And I went into a whole seeking to understand thing where I started practicing on everything around me. That's interesting. Do you find yourself, do you think about fingernail lengths often? Hey, out of curiosity, what do you feel is the appropriate fingernail length? Interesting. Where'd you adopt that philosophy from? That's interesting. Do you feel that your friends need to have a standard of having a certain type of fingernails? That's a great thing about you, man. I know that our relationship is built on trust, and you love me whether or not I have the right fingernail length or not. Wouldn't you agree? Right. And it got to the point where people started, but the game was, this is the game. How long can you do it without them knowing you're doing it? Because that'll force you to not just come out and just blurt it out, right? Because when we're on the phone with the prospects, I can't just blurt this stuff out like the train of thought that I can with you guys, because you're not going to hang up on me and run from me or think I'm a jerk. When I'm working with the agent, I have to dance more. Oh man, that's really incredible. You probably really successful in business. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a big time negotiator. Wow. No wonder you're so confident about this. You probably have realized that, great negotiations come from understanding the other side of the coin really well. Because if you know what their pressure points are and their pain points are, then that gives you freedom and creativity to operate from this side. Hey, one thing that people have had a challenge with is understanding what their maximum threshold is for discounts. Have you thought about that? How did you find out? So we have to say it in a different way. And that's why when you play this game of smashing the relativity out of your life, to where anytime somebody says something that's relative, you train your ears to hear, I don't know what that means. And the game of how do I do it so that they do not know what I'm doing forces you to dance like that a little bit. And so you're working on the skill set even when you're not working. But it has a direct correlation and translation to what you're doing in your daily life. Being a salesperson, a phenomenal salesperson, is nothing other than figuring out exactly what their true pains are, exactly what they truly want, exactly what's holding them back, but at the core level, and then being able to eloquently provide a solution that nobody else has to cement mind share with them. That's a game that everybody can play, and it's served me incredibly well. And it would be funny though, because even as I got really, really good at it, the friends that knew me the most would go, Pono, stop practicing on me, man. My friend and roommate Keemar, man, he would call me out. He's like, Pono, I'm not a sharpening stone. And you know what I would say?
Sharpening stone.
You know what I would say? Hey, look, man, I've been really trying to get better at work, and I really appreciate where you're coming from. And I want to thank you for acknowledging that. Quick question for you. Right? Like that was even a bigger test for me. Could I do the game after he called me out for the game without him knowing that I was doing the game? And before I knew it, all of a sudden my brain had been trained to do that, to where when, prospect's like, oh, I'm waiting. Nice. When do you think Jesus is going to arrive? Oh, you meant about the houses. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you mean when you were waiting? I'm really, 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 really passionate about this because this happens in my world too. What makes you a better trainer, Josh? What makes you a better salesperson? What makes you a better coach? Why are your courseworks better? What's better about your scripts? What's different about your scripts? And so I've been forced to go really internal on, because if somebody's like, Josh, what makes your scripts better? Well, they're written better. And every coach says that. What makes you a better agent? I offer great service. And every agent says that. Right. And so you have to go back, and what makes this process and this training different is that we're playing at a higher level and we're going deeper, and it's frustrating and it's not simple, but it's just a formula. Just like anything else we've done in life that was complex at first and then we mastered it over time. It's time on task over time. But it really has to be a commitment. If you want to double or triple your income, you got to double or triple your skill set. How much time do you have time blocked in your... Now, I'm not promoting that we go out and listen to all these different random trainings. When you find somebody that resonates with you and you find somebody that's got a skill, then you spend time doing it, which is what you guys are doing it. So also, when you hear me talk, if you ever think, man, that's really crazy, I don't think I can get that good. I didn't think I could either. Well, I knew I could, but I just knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. And also keep in mind, how many hours a week am I training on this stuff? 7, 8, 9 a week where I'm training on this, and then I'm selling, right? So this is the main thing that helped me go from, selling $50 webs, 10 $50 websites a month to being where I'm at now and selling 90 homes in 2020 and 2021.
Makes sense.
Sorry, I'm in a little, if I apologize if this was like way too deep. I've been in a kind of a deep mood today. I spent about 15 minutes reading about everything that's going on in Turkey. And it just took me for a loop of how grateful I am that I'm not having to worry about if my kids want to stay in a building that's about to fall down, or if there's a weather storm that is less, is it better to freeze or is it better to stay in this crumbling building?
Yeah, it's really sad what's going on just all over the world right now. It's
it's part of life, so we might as well dominate some sales, right?
True.
So, thoughts, ahas, questions?
I think it's about knowing in depth the not sales process, but like the depth of real estate, like the different types of pitfalls, and like just knowing everything just really in depth. I think that's just something we all have to improve upon. And also just don't be afraid to share it with other people, like what could go wrong, and like, the reason why you need to have a plan in place with you. And I think just like keeping that in mind and being convincing is definitely what will help, kind of guide us through getting, those additional sales from this.
Yeah. I mean, first it just comes from a decision, right? Like, I'm going to get really good at this, and I'm going to time block it, and I'm going to focus on it. And you guys are doing that. And so if you ever have that thought and that doubt of like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get it or it's not working, just give it time.
True.
Just give it time and keep showing up. And before you know it, you'll look up. And then what happens is you start to see momentum. You start to get a little bit here and a little bit there. And then what happens even further is then your confidence starts to go up, and you're no longer faking it till you make it. You're making it, and the faking it just dissipates. What I can tell you from learned experiences is that the times I was afraid to upset somebody and I move forward anyway, I typically upset them. And the times that I upset somebody, when it was coming from the right place, I could always back it out. So there have been times where, like one of the fears I think people have is, what if I'm that bold with people and they rebuke me.
Yeah.
Great. Then you simply, you know, for me, I have been in that space where I said it to somebody and they were in the wrong space. They weren't ready to hear the message. And like, look, man, you're just like everybody else. Hey, I can appreciate that where you're coming from. My intention was only to highlight that there's more. It's more than just black and white. There's more than just right and wrong when it comes to negotiating with real estate. And I've got a massive perspective on this that has helped a lot of people. My only intention, whether you work with me or not, is to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like I've rubbed you the wrong way. It sounds like this has been offensive. I didn't mean to. Be well. On to the next one. And on the next one, I adjusted a little bit to where when I delivered it with a little more cushion, a little more empathy. And then you find your balance. You have to know what too far is before you're trying to find what's too far and what's not enough. In order to find out what's the perfect balance, sometimes you got to go too far.
That's true.
You want the perfect water temperature? You can either start at something really cold and work your way all the way up. Sometimes if you want it faster, then you turn it all the way up as hot as you think it is, and then you turn it down a notch. Either way, you're going to find the perfect temperature, but you have to either A, be pushing yourself a little bit farther, or B, push yourself too far and pull it back a little bit. I found that it's easier to go too far and back it out because you don't actually have a good depth on what's too far because of your baggage that you're bringing from elsewhere. I say a lot of things that people think is bold, and a lot of people just respond great and go, that's just truth. I love it. And it works. And then they use me as their agent. Wow, that was really bold and truthful. You really don't care, do you? Well, I care immensely, which is why I'm telling you, if somebody has cancer, I'm not going to be afraid to tell them they have cancer. If I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor, baby. Good stuff, bro.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Josh.
Who was that?
Kendra.
You're welcome, Kendra. You're welcome.
I'm definitely gonna be script practicing. I feel like I've been showing, and I think script practicing would help.
It most certainly will help. I still script practice. I still, one of the reasons why I train and do these meetings and give away my time is that by doing so, it keeps me sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what'd you sell last year? Like 17 homes?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 4 million in volume.
What's your goal this year?
Probably to double that, so like 9 million in volume.
And what was your number 1, 2, and 3 lead source? Where your clients came from?
Yeah, they all came from Op City last year.
Okay. And what was your conversion rate out of how many leads you got and how many you closed?
I think I was at a 6 or 7%.
And are you getting more or less leads this year?
I'd say I'm started out pretty strong. We're on the Zillow Flex program as well, so I have within 2 months about maybe like 60 internet leads so far, something like that.
So your key to getting more sales, because like, look, you can't control that lead flow, right? Like you can't create more demand for Op City or Zillow Flex, and there's other agents that are being distributed leads. So right now, that whatever that pace of leads is your pace of leads. By focusing on role playing, you can control how many sales you have. And the other thing that I would say that if you want to double your sales in 1 year, then what you want to do is you want to focus on 2 things, which is your role playing, your scripting, and your practice, make it a priority. And the second thing is focus on your follow-up. because a lot of the leads that didn't buy last year will buy this year.
Yeah.
Okay, because
So
what
last
happened?
year I was in Arizona,
Oh, did
so
you
I'm
just
starting over.
okay? Well, then even more important for your role playing and scripting, because when you do internet lead generation or when you do any type of lead generation, you have what I call like a rolling pipeline. So like you might get, you said you got 60 leads in the first month.
First 2 months.
First 2 months. So that's about 30 leads a month, right? Well, out of those 30 leads, you might have 1 or 2 that are ready to buy now. You might have 1 or 2 that you talk to that aren't buying for 90 days. You might have 1 or 2 that are buying in 6 months and 1 or 2 that are buying in 12 months.
Yeah.
So the first 6 months, there's only about 4 of those 30 leads that have opportunity. But when you get to 12 months in, now you've had another 4, right? For that month. Plus you multiply that out each month you go, to where when you get to 6 months, if you're focusing on script practicing and your role playing, now you're not only getting the low hanging fruit as they come in, but you're also starting to get that pipeline to turn. The number one thing that you can do to keep buyers engaged with you is new listing alerts. So anybody that I've spoken to that's thinking about buying the next 12 months, you have KV Cord, no?
Yes.
Make sure they're on their listing alerts.
Mm-hmm.
Write that down, because that's gonna take a lot of time off of following up these leads. Write that down. Make sure all of them are on new listing alerts, because KV Core also has AI email. So what I mean by that is, let's say somebody's been on your site for a month and then they don't come back for 3 months and then they show up. KV Core will write an email on your behalf saying, hey, what's up, Josh? It's Kendra. I noticed you're back on my site. Do you need anything from me? Would you like me to send you some other homes?
Yeah.
So that right there is a form of follow. The second thing you can do is do a market update video once a month. So every month, there's most likely some data that comes out for the previous month. Sit down and review that with your mentor, find 3 bullet points, do a quick video, and blast that video out to everybody in KV Core. Type it, most recent update from the market. Thinking about buying in the next 6 to 12 months, here's the data you need.
That's good.
Just by doing those 2 things is going to pick up some to maintain those relationships. And those are the 2 biggest things that they want. They want new listings and they want to know what's going on with the market.
Right. Yeah.
Congrats on your success, by the way. Selling 17 homes from Op City is no easy feat.
Thank you.
That's good work. Very good work. You with Charles and Melanie?
Yes.
Yeah, Charles's birthday's today.
I'll have to wish him a happy birthday. I didn't know.
I like Charles and Melanie a lot. They're awesome.
Yeah, good people.
Yeah, they have a really good grip on Zillow Flex and Op City. They've been doing them for years, and they have a really good partnership with them.
Yeah.
Most agents right now, like, just give you an example, we did Op City, but we came into the game late, and Op City, we were probably we had an average click time. You know how the lead comes in, you got to click it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
We had an average click time of like 7 seconds for an entire month, and we probably only won, as a group of 4 agents, probably 11 leads.
Oh, wow. Yeah, as soon as you close like 1, then they start coming in, and then as soon as you close 3 or 4, then they really start coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Op City is cool. I used Op City like years ago, and I closed like my first 5 real estate transactions through Op City. Especially like you said, you start closing a few, they start hooking you up. I didn't even know they were still around.
They
Oh,
are.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a company called Rise that you can get in, and they have a connection with. It's $300 a month, and you can put unlimited agents on it. I had an account with them, and we could always reopen that bucket. The challenge was just being consistent to get off the ground, and because you got to work them really, really hard for the first 90 to 120 days, and get that first or second deal coming in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, people, have a phenomenal day. I will
too.
catch up with you guys soon. Thanks for coming. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thanks, bro.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, bye.